Chip Tam and football. That's what Pittsburgh does. What's up, everybody? Brian Batko here from the Post-Gazette. Welcome back to the show. Coming to you from just outside the Steelers UPMC Rooney Sports Complex on the south side of town. Pleased, as always, to be brought to you by Pella. No better place to get new windows and doors installed in your home than Pella, who can help you save on energy costs year-round. Schedule a free at-home consultation with them at 866-593-1560 to discuss your project further. That's 866-593-1560 to get started with Pella Windows and Doors of Pittsburgh. Really grateful to be joined today, as you can see, by Bryant McFadden, former Steelers cornerback, two-time Super Bowl champ, now pumping out his own content in the media world with the always entertaining All Things Cover podcast as well. How's it going, B-Mac?
Doing pretty good. Thank you for the invite, Brian. Hope you're doing well.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll get into Mike Tomlin talk eventually, because that's obviously a big story right now with the Steelers. But first, I wanted to get your insight on this, because right now they're rolling the balls out from minicamp on the south side as we speak. As a player, is there really much of a difference for you between OTAs and mandatory minicamp, or is it just kind of same stuff, different day, different name when you get to that final week of the offseason program?
Yeah, it's pretty much nowadays it's the same stuff, different day. Being involved in OTAs like the Steelers have been, all the new guys are pretty much acclimated to how the Steelers do their business in the meeting rooms and on the football field, and they kind of understand the schedule as well. So that might be the only difference, right? Just the scheduling of how the mini camp practices and meetings might be handled compared to the OTA regiment when it comes to the schedule. But for the most part, it's pretty much, steady Freddy. It's pretty much the same kind of things that you've been doing when it comes to installments, offensively, defensively, special team wise, understanding and knowing how the practices are orchestrated, individual period, things like that. So this is a great, I love how the NFL does mini camps now, when you have quite a few OTA practices to kind of get out of the way. And when mini camp roll around, pretty much everyone is acclimated and comfortable in what their role is.
Yeah, it seems like Mike Tomlin likes to kind of use this mandatory week as a chance to simulate like a regular season week down here on the south side. And, obviously it's not quite training camp levels of intensity. Nobody's, really busting heads yet at this stage of the game, obviously in the off season. But speaking of, training camp and sort of the logistics of NFL practices, full team workouts and whatnot, Steelers released their 2024 camp schedule last week, and I noticed a major change. A lot of their practices are going to start in the morning at 10:30 a.m. Wasn't it always kind of a staple of Camp Tomlin to be out there when the sun is shining bright, hottest part of the day, sweat dripping down in the beautiful valleys of Latrobe, PA? Is he going soft on us now or what? I'm sure the players, though, would like doing it in the mornings before the sun's high up in the sky.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know exactly the mindset and changing how it's been done for such a long time. I remember when I was there, we had legit 2-a-days. So we got practices in the morning, and then around 2:55, that afternoon practice is when
exactly.
All the spectators used to be there in Latrobe cheering us on and watching us throughout that practice. And usually that second practice was more of a padded practice, of course, with the fans being involved, than the morning practice. So, yeah, that's a good question. I haven't really seen the ins and outs of the schedule with training camp for the Steelers. Of course, I heard the report date, which is important, and now you can kind of gather everything else moving forward throughout training camps. But seeing and hearing that practices will be more devoted to morning times than afternoon times is something that we haven't really seen.
Yeah, the weekday practices, BMAC, are going to be at 10:30, and they're still going to do the 1:55 on the weekends for when fans are coming from far and wide. But yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a change. I wonder if that's player input or maybe Mike T just tweaking things a little bit for longevity and things of that nature. I'm sure those 2:55 start times that's when you really separated the men from the boys, when you're going in 95-degree heat and the bugs are flying all over the place.
No question. Yeah, I still remember it like it was yesterday, man. Walking down that hill, man, it used to be super hot, muggy a little bit. But, that's where we were able to establish that championship mindset there in Latrobe.
Absolutely. Well, okay, obviously there's more going on with Mike Tomlin right now than when he's deciding to hold practice at St. Vincent College. He's also deciding to sign on for 3 more seasons after this one as the Steelers head coach, at least, taking him through 2027. I know you've already put it out there that this could be a good way to lock the team in for this particular season, do players at the NFL level, do they really pay attention to that kind of stuff? I feel like it's maybe more of a traditionally college football idea that you want to know the guy you're committed to isn't going anywhere. When he gets a new deal, everybody celebrates, or is it a different environment maybe in Pittsburgh, especially with Tomlin, given that he is the league's longest tenured head coach, and for a lot of these guys, he's the only Steelers head coach they can remember as long as they've followed football.
Yeah, for the NFL, it is a different environment when you talk about the players kind of monitoring the status of a head coach. For Pittsburgh, you talk about the structure and coaching. I mean, 3 coaches in the last 55 years. I don't know if there's another professional organization that has had that luxury at the head coaching position. So when you play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you don't see a carousel of faces at the head coaching position. And in NFL world, it's almost like every year is a proven year anyway, because you look at how coaches have been, let go in an untimely fashion. You don't know what to expect, so that's the life of coaching. But for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they've done a great job. The Rooney family has done a great job in identifying head coaches and identifying guys that can sustain a level of success where you don't have to worry about firing a guy or letting a guy go, so that's super important. And for players, I can speak more about Pittsburgh. When you go to Pittsburgh, they don't change head coaches. So that puts a lot of pressure on players, because you look at the last 3 coaches, Chuck Noll,
right,
Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin, all 3 have won championships. All 3 have had longevity in the organization. And all 3 have never been in a position where their seat was super, super hot, not knowing if they would be the head coach in Pittsburgh tomorrow or the next month, the next year. And a lot of that has to do with the coaching staff being relevant, being consistent, and the players, the personnel, because what gets coaches fired or what gets coaches on a hot seat is not winning ball games, not being relevant. So for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the history there is the standard for almost any professional organization, not just NFL wise, but basketball, hockey, baseball. Because when you talk about only having 3 coaches in 55 years, you've been doing something right.
Yeah, that's an interesting point by you, that it does kind of turn the pressure back on the players inherently, because it's like you kind of know if we screw up, I'm not going to he's not going to be the one going. I'm going to be the one who, they trust their coach. They're committed to their coach. So if we don't do what we're supposed to do, more than likely there's going to be shakeups in the personnel rather than the man at the top. Is that what your point is there, B-Mac?
Oh, no question. No question. Also, too, as a player, you don't want playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You don't want to be a part of that roster that makes the head coach seat hot, because that's never been done before in Pittsburgh over the last 50 plus years.
Exactly. Yeah. And for the current Tomlin streak of non-losing seasons too, nobody wants to be the, one of the pieces of that group that lets that streak end.
No.
So, now I know you're a Tomlin guy. You just kind of brought up why you believe in this, tradition that the Steelers have of maintaining the stability and the continuity. But were you at all surprised by them re-upping him for 3 more years, just because of the lack of playoff success in recent seasons? Some of the, high profile, I don't want to say off the field issues, because it hasn't been anything that dramatic, but some of the dust ups with Deontay Johnson and George Pickens. Were you surprised at all that Art Rooney II did another 3, or did you think it might just be 2 or 1, or did you just kind of figure, hey, he's basically got a lifetime contract at this point?
I'm not surprised, and here's why. What's better than Mike Tomlin? Right? Now, you talked about the lack of playoff wins. That's super relevant, especially for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But how many organizations in the National Football League, Brian, would love to have a coach that can at least get them to the postseason? Right?
Yeah.
How many organizations in the National Football League would love to have a coach that can win, have an above 500 record? Now, for Pittsburgh, it's different because of the 6 sticky Lombardis that's there on the South side. The standard is totally different than most organizations. And this is a significant signing, in my opinion, Brian, to where the Rooney family is basically saying, we believe in you and we want you to be dialed in, no distractions, And we want you to be able to get us back into that level of competition, competing in January football. So now when you factor in Omar, I think this will be Omar's second full year as the GM, right?
Right.
You look at that relationship between Mike Tomlin and Omar, clearly they can coexist together nicely because they've done a phenomenal job, not just throughout the draft, but via free agency. Now you allow these two guys to build together. So Omar understands Mike T got another 3-year extension. We're tied to the hip. Let's go ahead and make this thing happen. Let's go ahead and build this infrastructure the way that it needs to be built without looking over our shoulder. So I love this because now you minimize any distractions to Mike Tomlin and what his future holds in Pittsburgh. Remember when they lost the playoff game against Buffalo? One of the main questions that was asked that kind of shortened that post, that presser was, what's next? Like, are you thinking what's next for you? You know what I mean? So now you don't have to worry about that. He's dialed in for another 3 years. I don't know what Omar's contract is, but clearly he has, years left as well. So now they can work together.
Yeah, it's given him some leeway to still continue to plan for life after Ben. Obviously, that was a seismic change. Life after Kevin Colbert is a big change, too, from the front office perspective. And now you've got a new offensive coordinator, 2 new quarterbacks coming in. And yeah, the way I kind of view it is the Rooney family looking at it as, we know, like Mike Tomlin brings so many things to the table that you'd be worried about any new head coach doing as far as ability to connect with players, handle the media, navigate the outside pressure, try to understanding the traditions and standards of the organization that you're in. The fact that they are already comfortable with his ability to do all of that, I think probably just raises the floor in their eyes for what he can bring to the table. And yes, they clearly still believe that he can figure out the X's and O's, the coaching staff, the player personnel dynamics of the rest of it that will lead to winning. So, did you get, I know you were here last month for Troy Polamalu's celebrity flag football game. You looked like you were still running a 4-5 or 4-4 out there at Acrisure Stadium, especially when you had the ball in your hands. Any good stories from those 2 or 3 days that you were in town with your old teammates? Any good conversations you struck up that brought back fun memories that you can tell on the air here?
Oh man, outside of being sore for about 2 or 3 days after the fact, hadn't ran around a move like that in quite some time. Feet was sore, hamstrings,
trying to keep up with
groin.
Ike looked like he could still play too. Yeah.
But it was fun, man. Anytime we get a chance to get back together, man, it's a special time. We were a special group, a special bond, and just seeing so many guys that were a part of a success, story that will forever be remembered there in Pittsburgh. Man, we came together, Hines, Jerome, Ben, Ike, myself, C-Hope, Stuvie, man, there's so many guys, man. It's like we never left. It's literally like we never left. In our minds, when we get back together, Brian, it's like we still play for the Steelers. That's how
you were all wearing your jerseys again. So
it's like, we had that type of special bond with each other, man. And being a part of that legacy there in Pittsburgh, the fans, the tradition, is super important. I'm so appreciative to have that type of family base structure, because oftentimes, Brian, in professional sports, when players retire or leave the game, they don't socialize with their players anymore, their former teammates anymore.
Sure.
We're in a chat of it's like 20 of us. You know what I mean? Yeah. That we have dialogue with consistently in our group chat. So we always talking. Anytime a player has something, we try to support. That's what we do. That's why we won so much, because we actually loved each other. It wasn't like it was a tolerable relationship because we were on the same team. Nah, bro, if you need me, I'm here. Like, even to this day, if someone needs me to do something or be a part of something and my schedule permits, guess what? Say less. I'm there. You know what I mean? So it was a great event by Troy and his beautiful wife, Theodora. And we just had a ball. And I'm so happy to see the fans be able to enjoy it as well, because we was a special team throughout our time there in Pittsburgh.
Can today's athletes, today's NFL teams still build those kind of bonds in the social media age and in the world of so many players changing teams, seeing what, chasing the bag, seeing on Twitter, this guy got this much money, this is what I need to get? Like, things were, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, that was kind of right before social media really took off. I feel like at least the Twitter phase of things. I mean, can you still build that kind of rapport, or do coaches and team leaders almost have to go about it in a different way?
Yeah, you still can build that type of team camaraderie. Now, when it comes to the finances and contracts and the business side of things, that will always one up building that type of team camaraderie, because you got to go get what your worth says, what your market says you're worth, right? But in regards to that team fellowship, yes, it can be built. And it starts with leaders in the locker room, right? During this time, when I remember throughout my off seasons in Pittsburgh, when we were in the midst of OTAs or mini camps, after practices, guess what we did? We met at the Cheesecake Factory right there in the South Side, right? We sat at the bar for hours, just talking, just vibing. Or we went, in the city to High Tops. Remember when High Tops was around, right across the street from PNC Park?
I don't even, that's before my time. I'm 32,
That's before your
so
time.
I don't think I would have been allowed.
For the people tuning in,
I would have been allowed in there back then.
Yeah, for the people, for the fans that are 40 plus or whatever the case may be, they remember what the High Top was. But we used to go to the waterfront. It was certain place that we would leave the facility and come together and just sit and vibe, have a good time. And then for the players that had families that lived there in Pittsburgh, they weren't there with us all the time. But guess what they did? They prioritized a time to be like, you know what, wifey, I'm not coming home right after practice. I'm meeting up with the fellas. We're going to meet up, hang out for a few hours. I'll be home shortly. And we appreciate that for the ones who didn't have family at that time. And guess how that became a precedent in our locker room from our leaders? Hey, tomorrow after practice or Wednesday after practice, clear your schedule. After practice, we all getting together, man. We're going to hang out, man, and just vibe, man. Learn each other. Talk to each other. Be transparent. So now we can build that type of brotherhood that most organizations don't have. And that's the easiest way to have on the field success when you have off the field success. When I really rock with you, Brian, off the field, guess what we're going to do when we in the secondary together? Oh, we're going to rock. We got a chemistry. Hey, B, hey, let's invert this coverage. Let's rock and roll. Oh, yeah, I got you, B, Mac. Let's do it. You know what I mean? So that's the connection and the chemistry that we had that most organizations don't. They have a tolerable relationship amongst guys. We have a loving relationship amongst guys. So can it be done? No question, but it starts with the guys that are the leaders to be able to set the standard after practice. Because think about this. This is the most lenient time for players, the offseason schedule, how lax it is. You have OTAs, you're only there for a few hours, you go home, you have mini camps. It's easy. So it's easy to set up a schedule where, you know what, once a week, man, all the guys, man, we coming out. I don't care if you're a practice squad player. I don't care if you were undrafted. I don't care if you're a Hall of Fame potential player. Guess what we're going to do? We're going to come together somewhere around the facility, make sure everyone is there, and let's go ahead and vibe, man, and just have a good time. Think about what that does to the rookies that are just a part of the team, where they get a chance to socialize with some of the power movers of the team and learn each other. Think about that. Think about for the undrafted players. Think about how that can make them feel part of the family instantly. And that makes them buy into anything that you're selling, because they see the leadership, because you're making them feel like one. It's important. It's important, man. Coming together is important in anything you do, not just sports, life. Being a part of a corporation, a business. If you have a bunch of individuals, you're going to have individual success. But when you're a part of a team, you have to have team success, and that's the best way to build it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Not only does that give those young guys the knowledge, but I imagine it also gives them the confidence, which is so huge in this game as well. So, you know that more than anybody. The cornerbacks of the world know that more than anybody as well. Shake off one bad play, move on to the next. All right. Well, hey, B-Mac, I think that's all I got for you. Anything else you want to add before I get you out of here, or do you want to tell people anything they can find out there from you?
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. You can follow me on social media, BMAC_sports talk, CBS Sports HQ, the podcast as well, All Things Covered. And I hope to see a few of you guys when I get a chance to come up to training camp this year. Get ready for this entertaining 2024 season by the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm fired up and ready to go, man. I can't wait.
Yes, hope to see you in Latrobe. I will come say what's up. Thanks again to former Steelers cornerback Bryant McFadden for joining Chip Tam in Football Today. As always, I'm Brian Batko. thanks to you for finding us, checking us out. We know there's a million Steelers shows and podcasts out there, so appreciate you listening to this one today or watching it if you're on YouTube. We will see you next time. Have a good rest of the week.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.